Anyone that's been...
You know what? What can one of these quarterbacks or wide receivers do for me this year to make a wager? It's got to be the running conditions there for Jaden Daniels.
In regards to Jaden Daniels, you know I was on him in regards to the Heisman Trophy. I actually think he's going to do it on the ground, through the air, 40 touchdowns, 4 interceptions, playing in Cliff Kingsbury's offense where he wants to spread it and throw it. I think he's going to put up dynamic numbers.
Pro Football Today, only on SportsGrid.
The sharpest football contest show in the land, the Las Vegas Football Contest Show, focuses on Circa Sports Million, Circa Survivor, and the Westgate Super Contest, handicapping the games and releasing our contest picks every week of the season. With 2 former Super Contest winners, Brady Cannon and James Salinas, a former NFL player, Mike Pritchard, and over $1 million in contest prize money won combined, the Las Vegas Football Contest Show will have you prepared this season like none other.
There is going to be an energy to game time decisions that you will feel night in and night out. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. I want this to be the place that people come to. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid.
Talk about your freshman year at Alabama and even the redshirt year that got you ready to perform at the highest level.
You had to learn a lot about humility, about being patient to play at Alabama. And you still knew that you're going to have a shot to win a championship every year. And so that's the line. And so I think that's what's really missing with today's football. You got NIL, you got social media.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
Good morning. Welcome to NewsWire here on SportsGrid. I'm Craig Mish. It is Friday, getting ahead of the football weekend. Can't wait to get to everything here on the program. We'll preview the upcoming game with the Kansas City Chiefs on Sunday Night Football, so make sure you stay tuned to that. Also, Jim Gazzale joins us courtesy of Legal Sports Report. We got Vinnie Iyer from Sporting News, and we will recap what was a dull game in football and an exciting game in baseball at the end of September. I mean, who would have thought that? We'd be here at the end of September without the postseason, and baseball would steal the headlines today. That is where we are at here on the show. Now, naturally, we'll get to football here in just a minute, but let's start off with the biggest story in sports this morning, which was Shohei Ohtani reaching the 50-50 milestone, putting together one of the best days in Major League Baseball history. I mean, he went 6 for 6. He drove in 10 runs. He stole 2 bases. He hit home run number 49, home run number 50, and then he hit home run number 51 off a position player. Not sure how that happened, by the way, at the end of the game. But regardless, Ohtani had the single best offensive game and maybe best game that I've ever seen play. And it happened to happen in my own backyard as well. A little bit later in the show, we'll get into what happened with the historic baseball, still to be determined there. But naturally, this is the greatest player that we have seen play on a baseball field. I just don't think it comes particularly close. So congrats to Shohei Ohtani. Amazing watching that thing go down yesterday. All right, basketball. We've got a mega contract extension. This feels like one of the richest of all time. Joel Embiid and the Philadelphia 76ers have reached a contract extension. It's being reported by Shams this morning, with Woj being retired. 3 years, $192 million over 3 years for Joel Embiid. So now with his contract, with this money through 28-29, his deal is over $514 million. That's the 4th highest in the NBA, behind LeBron James, Steph Curry, and Paul George. 28 points per game over the course of his career. Embiid now looks like, barring something unforeseen, that he'll finish his career in Philadelphia. Meanwhile, it's pretty apparent that Aaron Rodgers will finish his career in New York, but the hope was he would finish on a high note. And if last night's game is any indication, the Jets are certainly on their way They shut down the New England Patriots from start to finish. This was not a competitive game at all. 24-3 final score there. Breece Hall scored a touchdown. Rodgers threw a touchdown. And certainly at this point, it does appear that the Patriots are headed back to maybe who we thought they would be at the beginning of the season, which is one of the worst teams in the NFL. But give them credit. They played competitive through 2 games. It just appeared as though the short week was not enough to keep them going. Here is Aaron Rodgers, who basically says week by week he's getting closer to who he needs to be.
Yeah, I felt great. I was, feeling real good out there. I felt good pregame. And, I've been progressing. I said to you guys after week 1, it's going to be a process of continuing to extend plays once I feel more comfortable. And this was kind of the first step in playing like I know I'm capable of playing. I felt like I was, myself. After the first touchdown, I felt good. I felt like we had a lot of good drives. We backed up a number of times and switched the field position, and then got points out of drives. I wish maybe I'd thrown that ball to Mike slightly more outside, but that would have been nice to get to 28-3. But man, I'm proud of our guys. We've been improving, but it hasn't been good enough for some people outside the room. So to have a performance like tonight, I don't know how many yards we finished with, but it feels really good.
Yeah, I think well said by Aaron Rodgers. I mean, the Jets, did not play great the first 2 games. You have nothing negative to say if you're a Jets fan this morning. They dominated the Patriots from start to finish. That did not make the head coach of the New England Patriots happy. Gerard Mayo basically says the game was more or less a failure on their part.
Look, not good in any phase of the game. Felt like we had a good game, X's and O's wise. We just didn't go out there and execute, and that's what it comes down to every Sunday. I told the guys, this is NFL football. This is what it is, and we just have to be better. So the guys will be off the next few days. Told them to, get their minds right, get their bodies right, and then come back and be ready to work. Got a bonus Monday. Got another good team that we're going to go against next week. Just got to be better. The first thing, I got to look at myself in the mirror and make sure that, I did everything I could to get the guys ready to go. And, based on the score today, I need to do more. But going back to what I said earlier, just got to hit the reset button. It's NFL football, and we have to get better.
And the Patriots, of course, have a young quarterback named Drake May who's going to play eventually. I don't know if that'll happen next week. We'll see. All right, let's talk about Jeremiah Smith. Do you know Jeremiah Smith's name? Well, you will now because he has signed an NIL deal, first ever deal with the company Red Bull. It's the first college football athlete to ever land a deal with the company. He's 18 years old. He plays on the Ohio State Buckeyes. He caught 6 passes for 92 yards against Akron. He also had 5 receptions for 119 yards and a 70-yard score last week. He's a good player, and Red Bull now has their NIL sponsor. In the NFL, the San Francisco 49ers are banged up. So are the Los Angeles Rams. They're playing each other this week. Will George Kittle play for San Francisco? Not really sure. He left last week's game. They said it was just cramps, but now the 49ers say he has a hamstring injury. These injury reports with the 49ers are kind of curious this year, to say the least. Travarius Ward also missed practice. Nick Bosa has been limited. The 49ers are down to 6.5-point favorites against the Rams, who won't have Puka Nacua or Cooper Kupp or a couple defensive players in that one. Meanwhile, Justin Jefferson says that he is playing against the Texans this week, saying, oh, yeah, for sure, so we'll trust him there. T. Higgins back on the field for the Cincinnati Bengals, but he is limited with a hamstring injury. We're not sure if he's going to play on Monday night against Washington. More fantasy football discussion coming your way tomorrow morning with me and George Kurtz, 7 a.m. Eastern, exclusively here on SportsGrid. New quarterback for the Texas Longhorns, Quinn Ewers, is still out. Arch Manning, for the time being, is taking over. We saw him play at a high level last week. Ewers is recovering from an oblique injury, and Texas plays Saturday night against Louisiana Monroe. So this should be an easy matchup for him before Texas gets serious in the SEC. Meanwhile, the Gators' Eugene Wilson underwent knee surgery, 13 receptions, 191 yards and 2 touchdowns. He's out for the season. Appalachian State last night, as a big underdog, beat South Alabama 41-19. The underdog season continues in college football. Meanwhile, tonight, Illinois takes on Nebraska with the Huskers 7.5-point favorites. Stanford is at Syracuse. 8.5-point favorites are Syracuse. And then San Jose State is at Washington State, with Washington State being 12.5-point favorites in that game. Amongst other news in Major League Baseball, not named Shohei Ohtani, Yankee fans are holding their breath for Juan Soto. He had a scary slide into the wall last night, went to get x-rays. We'll see if Ohtani is in the lineup at all this weekend. We'll see what the injury exactly is. The Baltimore Orioles finally get a win. They walked off the Giants last night. They're now within 4 games of the American League East. The Cleveland Guardians have clinched a playoff spot. Great season for them. They end up beating the Twins. The Twins are now tied with the Tigers for the final wild card spot in the American League. And the Mets scored double-digit runs for the 3rd game in a row as they're trying to chase down the wild card spot in the National League as well. In the WNBA, they're showing up in droves to see Caitlin Clark, a new record crowd to see her as the Fever lost the season finale against the Washington Mystics. 92-91 was the final in that game. Tina Charles set 2 records as the Dream clinched the final playoff spot, 78-67 over the New York Liberty. Atlanta is in. Also news from Live Golf, players are allowed on the U.S. Ryder Cup team, the PGA of America said yesterday. And in the National Hockey League, as training camp is opening, the Detroit Red Wings signed defenseman Moritz Seider to a 7-year deal, $60 million. He was the 6th overall pick by Detroit back in 2019. That's the latest that we have for you here on this Friday morning edition of NewsWire. But coming up next, we recap what happened last night between the Jets and Patriots, and also take a look at a couple of big games this weekend in the NFL. Eagles and Saints, 49ers and Rams. Vinnie Iyer from Sporting News joins us next right here on NewsWire. We'll be back right after these messages. Don't go away.
Ravens starting their season 0-2, and I mean the numbers and what the market had eyeing this team heading into this season is probably almost up in flames at this point.
Their last however many games being down 10 plus points in the fourth quarter, inability to close out, getting picked apart by what is largely considered a below average quarterback with a below average receiving core.
Pro Football Today, only on SportsGrid.
The sharpest football contest show in the land, the Las Vegas Football Contest Show, focuses on Circus Sports Million, Circus Survivor, and the Westgate Super Contest, handicapping the games and releasing our contest picks every week of the season. With 2 former Super Contest winners, Brady Cannon and James Salinas, a former NFL player, Mike Pritchard, and over $1 million in contest prize money won combined, the Las Vegas Football Contest Show will have you prepared this season like none other.
There is going to be an energy to game time decisions that you will feel night in and night out. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. I want this to be the place that people come to. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid.
Crew has already clinched the National League Central. They're 2 games behind LA, that being the Dodgers, trying to maybe get the 2nd seed in the National League standings for October.
Both of these teams have a chance to score some runs against these pitching matchups, so maybe another over, even though we do have a playoff atmosphere. And yes, Milwaukee did clinch, but there's still an eye on the prize of we might be able to chase down the Dodgers and also the Phillies to get one of those buys.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
Welcome back to NewsWire here on SportsGrid. Another big weekend of the NFL, of course, coming up. We're at week 3. But before we get to this weekend's games, let's take a look back at last night's game. And we can do this quickly because it wasn't much of one. Vinnie Iyer is with us from Sporting News. Vinnie, I think most of the sports world had their eyes on Shohei Ohtani yesterday. And so I don't think the NFL is going to be too upset with this one because that game last night let's just be honest, one of, hard to say it's one of the worst games ever on Thursday night. It's probably a little bit strong, but let's just keep it real. The game stunk. It was over before it began. The Patriots showed nothing, and the Jets won easy.
Yeah, this is just the transition to the Jets are now the in team along with the Bills in the division. And this was important for the Jets because they hadn't done this in 9 years, take care of the Patriots like this in a game like this. And what was the other thing that happened here? Aaron Rodgers threw it back to his best days. He stayed healthy through a home Jets playoff or a home game, and then just looked at his old self. I think he delivered exactly what Jets fans were looking for. Use the defense, use the running game, looked fantastic throwing the ball, moving around. He looked very rejuvenated. I didn't see any signs of him coming off a torn Achilles. And this was a big game for him to turn the corner and to make kind of the Jets fans believe and just, hey, this team could be special this year, given how dominant this defense can be and how good the running game has been so far.
Yeah, and 10 days now till their next game. Good job by the Jets yesterday. Meanwhile, great job by the New Orleans Saints. Very surprising start for them, not just winning, but winning and blowing teams out. This week they get the Philadelphia Eagles. It's been that kind of season, not just for the Eagles, but for everyone else. If you're a favorite in the NFL, beware, you're probably going down. This week the Saints are 2.5-point favorites, Vinny, as they take on Philadelphia, and the total is 49.5. And I think the odds, the reason why they are what they are here is because the Saints simply, over the last 2-3 games, even dating back to last year, Vinny, they did not show this at all. So I guess I would ask you, is what they've shown even close to legitimate, averaging like 45 points a game?
Well, I think the Panthers game may not be a surprise because how bad that defense is. The Cowboys game was a surprise, but maybe the Cowboys defense is not what it was last year. So we'll see. The Eagles defense has stunk so far with Vic Fangio. They have a lot of trouble stopping the run, which the Saints have been doing at a smash level here with Alvin Kamara to start. And that's what's happened here. The Saints have rediscovered play action. Kamara's running well. Derek Carr's been in comfortable situations. He's throwing downfield with confidence. Rashid Shaheed and Chris Olave. So this is going to be a very fun game to watch. There'll be a lot of points here. I think A.J. Brown not being on the other side. The Eagles are going to have to compensate for that. But I expect it to be a high-scoring game. The number I feel confident about here is that total. I think there's just enough defensive lapses on both teams with these quarterbacks playing well that I think you'll see it go up. But I do actually like the Eagles in this one. I think this is a little bit of a gut check type game for the Saints to say, okay, how good are we at this point? But look at Jalen Hurts. I think he's the factor here that changed the game with his running ability. And I think we saw that become a big factor last week.
Yeah, Eagles right now a little bit undervalued probably in the NFL. Probably a better team than the Saints. And if you, wanted to look at this line a month ago, Vinny, the Eagles would have been favored probably. But NFL is a quick reaction league. All right, this is a tough one to handicap because we know that the Rams don't have Puka Nacua or Cooper Kupp and some key defensive players. So going into this game, the odds makers made the line San Francisco -7.5. And it seemed a little stout, like that's a big number. Mm-hmm. And then all of a sudden, we heard earlier this week that Joey Bosa's banged up. George Kittle, who they said wasn't banged up, by the way, last week, right? Remember that? They said it was just a cramp. Now all of a sudden it's a hamstring. Hard to trust these 49ers with any of these injuries. That line has crashed down. San Francisco now -6.5-point favorites, total of 43.5. In a normal scenario, Vinny, with all the offensive players that these two teams have, this total would have been 46, 47, somewhere along those lines. Is there some concern on now both sides of the ball here?
Yeah, I think there's some concern with George Kittle, and if he's not out there, because you already have Deebo Samuel down, you have Christian McCaffrey down. How many weapons can these teams withstand being out of the lineup and still produce? Well, the 49ers still have plenty here. Jordan Mason has run well. Their running game should be fine in this one to control the action. And Brandon Ayuk has not gotten going. But keep in mind also the 49ers have wanted to explode a little bit offensively. It's been hard to do that because the Jets and Vikings defenses are playing well. The Rams defense is terrible right now. It cannot stop anything. So I think the 49ers have enough depth there with all their skill players, and we'll see maybe some new faces make some plays where they'll be okay, where I think you on the other side of the Rams, I mean, this is going to be very difficult to move the ball because they're also missing a key offensive lineman, Jonah Jackson. So running the ball with Kyron Williams is going to be a grind. these guys can't separate and get open, where I think the 49ers at least will have Ayuk on the field, and that can make a big difference here in their offensive strategy with Jordan Mason probably playing closer in the game.
Yeah, I would agree. I think the games are all fascinating each and every week. Maybe what's even more fascinating is the way that the Cardinals have played. They put themselves in a position now ahead of the Rams to win the division. I didn't see that coming this early in the season. Seattle's played good football too. They get Miami this week. And look, anything can happen in the NFL. I'm not going to say the Dolphins can't win that game, but they're certainly up against it. But Arizona played well, Vinnie, against Buffalo too. So maybe we should start at least just looking at their possibility, maybe just to get in a scenario at the end of the season where they're close.
Yeah, I mean, you look at the Rams this way, the 0-2 start with all the injuries are brutal because the way the Seahawks are playing, the way the Cardinals are playing at this point. Now, Seahawks get a break because Miami makes a long road trip without Tua Tagovailoa. So figure they have a chance to get to 3-0. Or the Cardinals at home against the Lions. I mean, the Lions have not played all that well. Jared Goff has made a lot of mistakes. So big opportunity for both of those teams at home this week. I mean, Detroit is a little bit vulnerable to start the season. I think you really feel good about Seattle winning. I'm not sure they'll cover this week just because it looks like they will. And Miami is going to still have some offense in that one. But I do see the potential of both these teams getting off to good starts and maybe putting a little pressure on the 49ers if they start 2-1.
All right, that's Vinnie Iyer from Sporting News. He is sporting the St. Louis Cardinals hat. We will allow it. We will allow it today, Vinnie, but you understand that if they lose tonight, they're eliminated from playoff contention. Yes. We're going to have to pull that hat, okay? I know.
I do have an Ohtani shirt on, so that's good.
Okay, fair enough. I can't see it. We got to scroll down
to
the shirt. Good job, my Vinnie.
Yeah.
All right, see you next week.
Ravens starting their season 0-2, and I mean the numbers and where the market had eyeing this team heading into this season is probably almost up in flames at this point.
Their last however many games being down 10+ points in the fourth quarter, inability to close out, getting picked apart by what is largely considered a below-average quarterback with a below-average receiving core.
Pro Football Today, only on SportsGrid.
The sharpest football contest show in the land, the Las Vegas Football Contest Show, focuses on Circa Sports Million, Circa Survivor, and the Westgate Super Contest, handicapping the games and releasing our contest picks every week of the season. With two former Super Contest winners, Brady Cannon and James Salinas, a former NFL player, Mike Pritchard, and over $1 million in contest prize money won combined, the Las Vegas Football Contest Show will have you prepared this season like none other.
There is going to be an energy to game time decisions that you will feel night in and night out. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. I want this to be the place that people come to. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid.
Crew has already clinched the National League Central. They're 2 games behind LA, that being the Dodgers, trying to maybe get the 2nd seed in the National League standings for October.
Both of these teams have a chance to score some runs against these pitching matchups, so maybe another over, even though we do have a playoff atmosphere. And yes, Milwaukee did clinch, but there's still an eye on the prize of we might be able to chase down the Dodgers and also the Phillies to get one of those buys.
The early line, only on SportsGrid.
Welcome back to NewsWire. I mean, we're going to be doing this every single week here on the show, it feels like, because the amount of injuries there are in the NFL, especially with questionable injuries with players going into the game, needs to be touched on. So we'll do it every week with Dr. Chow. It's time now for the SportsGrid Sound Off. The San Francisco 49ers seem to be able to win at times without Christian McCaffrey, but it's been really tough for them when Deebo Samuel does not play. That indeed is going to be the issue this week. Samuel has essentially been the backup to McCaffrey and even serving as the backup to Jordan Mason at running back when those two players have played. But this week, Deebo is going to miss the game. Here's the very latest on his injury with Dr. Chow.
By video, Deebo Samuel suffered a right calf strain toward the end of the Week 2 contest. CMC is already out on injury reserve for calf/Achilles tendonitis. The good news for Deebo is this is not Achilles tendonitis. It is a calf muscle strain. The bad news is calf muscle injuries linger. Hopefully, Deebo can avoid injury reserve, but we see a multi-week absence here to avoid the calf injury lingering for the 49ers star number 1 wide receiver. No surgery, will get better. The 49ers will be safe multiple weeks. Hopefully he can avoid injured reserve and return ahead of CMC with his calf Achilles issue.
We'll see, because Deebo Samuel makes the 49ers go. They've been able to plug in running backs through the years with success. But without Deebo, remains to be seen. Again, they're 6.5-point favorites this week at the Los Angeles Rams. Meanwhile, the Houston Texans acquired Joe Mixon in the offseason to shore up their running game, and thus far, Mixon's looked pretty good until he was hip tackled, as they call it, in the previous game, which is now supposed to force fines and suspensions in the National Football League. Here's Dr. Chow on the latest on the Houston's running back.
Joe Mixon was injured on a presumed but uncalled hip drop tackle, appeared to suffer a right high ankle sprain, left for the locker room, returned to the game in Week 2, but was ineffective and ultimately replaced by Cam Akers. With this type of high ankle sprain, it would be good news to avoid injury reserve. We see Mixon missing some time for the Houston Texans, at least Week 3 or 4 due to the high ankle sprain, but should have a good recovery without surgery soon.
We'll see right now, because the Houston Texans really don't have a ton of viable backup options at the running back position. One of their other running backs is Dameon Pierce. He has missed the first 2 games of the season as well. So we'll see if Mixon can play this week. Meanwhile, we know Cooper Kupp of the Los Angeles Rams is joining Puka Nacua on the sidelines this week. But the difference between Kupp and Nacua seems to be significant, because as of right now, heading into the weekend, Kupp has not been placed on injured reserve. Let's check in with Dr. Chow on Kupp's injury and how it is different from Nacua's.
The Rams are already down Puka Nacua, who went out on a PCL tear injured reserve that we felt was from early season. Now Cooper Kupp exited the game. By video, it was an E-version ankle sprain, not the standard basketball sprain. This is a high ankle sprain variant. He's going to miss several weeks. The hope is he can avoid injured reserve. The only good news is that we expect Cooper Kupp back before Puka Nacua. Nacua slated for a midseason at best return. We hope to see Kupp back ahead of that. Go to Sports Injury Central, SICScore.com for all the latest.
All right, thanks very much, Dr. Chow. And of course, you can catch Pro Football Today Sunday morning, getting you ready for all of the NFL games exclusively here on SportsGrid, including fantasy sports today, Saturday mornings and Sunday mornings. That will help you make some lineup decisions. Meanwhile, our top story of the day, in case you missed it or just waking up last night, Shohei Ohtani ended up hitting home run number 50, but it wasn't enough. He hit home run number 51 as well. He is the first player in Major League Baseball history to accomplish the feat: 50 home runs, 50 stolen bases. He ended up hitting number 51 off a position player of the Marlins later in the game and also stole another base. So therefore, he is now chasing, 55-55 or 60-60. Who knows? Ohtani can't be stopped. He was 6 for 6 in the game yesterday. He ended up driving in 10 runs. It was a performance for the ages as Los Angeles beat Miami by a final score yesterday of 20-4. History has been made, and Shohei Ohtani is having a season for the ages. He is currently the favorite to win the most valuable player in the National League on the FanDuel Sportsbook. All right, we will take a quick time out here on NewsWire. Coming up next, we've got Jim Gazzale from Legal Sports Report. We'll touch in on the very latest on the company that you may be familiar with from the past, named Bovada, now restricted in more states than one. We'll be right back.
Ravens starting their season 0-2, and I mean the numbers and where the market had eyeing this team heading into this season is probably almost up in flames at this point.
Their last however many games being down 10 plus points in the fourth quarter, inability to close out, getting picked apart by what is largely considered a below average quarterback with a below average receiving core.
Pro Football Today, only on SportsGrid.
The sharpest football contest show in the land, the Las Vegas Football Contest Show, focuses on Circus Sports Million, Circus Survivor, and the Westgate Super Contest, handicapping the games and releasing our contest picks every week of the season. With two former Super Contest winners, Brady Cannon and James Salinas, a former NFL player, Mike Pritchard, and over $1 million in contest prize money won combined, the Las Vegas Football Contest Show will have you prepared this season like none other.
There is going to be an energy to game time decisions that you will feel night in and night out. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. I want this to be the place that people come to. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid.
Crew has already clinched the National League Central. They're 2 games behind LA, that being the Dodgers, trying to maybe get the 2nd seed in the National League standings for October.
Both of these teams have a chance to score some runs against these pitching matchups, so maybe another over, even though we do have a playoff atmosphere. And yes, Milwaukee did clinch, but there's still an eye on the prize of we might be able to chase down the Dodgers and also the Phillies to get one of those buys.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
Welcome back to NewsWire here on SportsGrid. Today we have Jim Gazzale from Legal Sports Report in the house. We're going to cover the latest on Bet365. Seems like they've been in the news a ton for changing odds in different ways. We're going to get to that. We'll get to Fanatics as well. But Jim, welcome back to the show. It is great to catch up with you. And I know we're going to dive in here. I got to be honest, I kind of miscalculated this story a little bit. I honestly thought that Bovada, the offshore sports betting company who's been around for a really long period of time, way before sports betting was legal, I thought that these threats that these different states were making to them to shut down operations in legal states, I thought they wouldn't take it seriously and just proceed as usual, because they've sort of proceeded under their own auspices for many, many years. But now they're restricted in 14 different states. And quite frankly, Jim, I'm a little surprised. I was wrong. I thought they would just keep rolling and not listen to anyone.
Yeah, certainly, Craig. And I think what we've seen over the last handful of months, really going back to the early parts of this year, where a bunch of states had been sending these cease and desist letters to Bovada. It does seem, though, at least this year, that they are sort of heeding that warning and restricting access in those states where they do receive that cease and desist letter. So what we saw over the last couple of weeks and months, Kansas, Louisiana, and Pennsylvania being added to that list of restricted U.S. sports betting markets for Bovada. Kansas, Louisiana, and Pennsylvania all sending their own separate cease and desist letters within the last couple of months. Kansas, I believe, sent theirs in July, and Louisiana and Pennsylvania sent theirs last month in August. We've seen, like I said off the top, a handful of states take this action so far this year. Michigan, Connecticut, Colorado, and Ohio did the same, and all of those states as well included in those 14 restricted markets. Massachusetts, interestingly enough, they do have one of the most public and outspoken band of sports betting regulators. They like to do a lot of public-facing things in terms of meetings and rulemaking and whatnot. I spoke to some people over there the other day, and and they told me that they'll have an update on their actions against Bovada coming up at a committee meeting, a gaming commission meeting coming up in the next several weeks, though they have not yet sent a cease and desist letter to Bovada or any illegal offshore bookmaker for that matter. And, of course, Craig, like we all know, the offshore sports books, very limited, if any, customer protections, unregulated, untaxed, in direct contrast to the legal betting markets, the legal sports books that are heavily regulated in the U.S., of course, with varying regulations across different states, but now 14 restricted markets for Bovada in the U.S.
Okay, fair enough. And, we'll see if this means less of a future for some of the other offshore sports books as well. All right, a couple of Monday nights ago, Jim, it was a big story how Bet365, essentially like everybody else thought Christian McCaffrey was going to be playing on Monday night. He did not. And so Jordan Mason played. Mason had a huge game for the San Francisco 49ers. Bet365 tried to walk back some potential odds on Mason and then did a second walk back and say, okay, we'll pay out everybody, even though these were not the correct odds. They're in the news a lot for this, unfortunately, and now another fine coming in the state of New Jersey. So what do you think, Jim? Does Bet365 sort of not have a handle on this stuff here? I know that they're mostly overseas and involved in soccer and some of the other sports, but this is just not really a great look for them in September.
Yeah, and it does seem like these fines have been for similar things where they are just unilaterally changing odds without getting approval from New Jersey sports betting regulators, which is required by law in New Jersey. Of course, some other states don't have that requirement, and sportsbooks are allowed to change these sort of glaring errors, let's call them. So this latest fine actually came before that Monday night odds change and comes on the heels of a $500,000 fine that Bet365 got in New Jersey in July for, again, changing odds without approval. So the fines came down in August, and this spanned from February of 2022 through January of 2023. There are a variety of different issues, almost $260,000 in bets that had to be voided and refunded across a variety of errors, really, where either the game or the match that they were taking bets on had already finished, or in one instance, a college basketball game tip-off got moved up by an hour. So the game was already underway. They being Bet365, did not adjust the time, the start time in their app. So the pregame odds were still available while the game was going on. And then again, they just automatically changed the odds without approval. A variety of other things where there were MMA fights on tape delay that were a week old that they were accepting wagers on, and obviously somebody somewhere would have knowledge of who won that match. So of course that is not allowed. And they also did take some bets on Rutgers football, which in New Jersey, right, you can't bet on in-state college teams or athletes. So overall, a variety of different mishaps and errors on Bet365's part. So New Jersey regulators again hit them with another $33,000 fine in August, which, like I said, came on the heels of that $500,000 fine from July, and just prior to the Jordan Mason fiasco that we saw on Monday night, a few days after this fine got announced by regulators in New Jersey.
Yeah, I feel like this has got some attention, but if it happens one more time on the big stage, I feel like it's going to get a massive amount of attention. All right, let's head with some good news in sports betting. Let's head over to Massachusetts, where they've had a number of different operators come in and out of there. Let's get to the latest on Fanatics. They opened up shop this year in Massachusetts. What do the numbers say?
Yeah, I thought Fanatics had a pretty decent August. They had their highest volume ever in a single month in Massachusetts, nearly $26 million. Their previous high was just shy of $24 million earlier this year in March. So I reached out to Fanatics to see what they thought might be contributing to this boost in handle for them in Massachusetts. And a spokesperson there told me that customers are really responding well to some app enhancements, namely their Parlay Hub, which, Craig, as you know, we've spoken a lot about the different tech behind a lot of these parlay products, and that is where a lot of these sports books seem to find a point of difference amongst a crowded field of sports books. So for Fanatics, they enhanced that parlay product. Customers are really responding well to that. And they also increased their betting markets. So again, trying to compete with the FanDuels and DraftKings of the world, where you could seemingly bet on anything that you could think of. Fanatics has enhanced their the number of markets that they offer across sports, and that has helped contribute to their highest volume month ever in Massachusetts at nearly $26 million in August.
All right, big numbers there for Fanatics. Jim, good luck in your fantasy matchups this week. I know you're all into that. We'll talk again next week here on NewsWire.
All right, thanks, Greg.
All right, Super Bowl champs back at it this week. Another primetime game. Got to put the Chiefs on primetime. That's what gets the ratings. It's Patrick Mahomes taking on the Atlanta Falcons. Daniel Hughes is going to join us coming up next. He's doing the play-by-play, the color for the television radio broadcast of the Kansas City Chiefs. So he will join us next right here on NewsWire. We'll break it all down for you. Don't go away.
Ravens starting their season 0-2, and I mean the numbers and where the market had eyeing this team heading into this season is probably almost up in flames at this point.
Their last however many games being down 10 plus points in the fourth quarter, inability to close out, getting picked apart by what is largely considered a below average quarterback with a below average receiving core.
Pro Football Today, only on SportsGrid.
The sharpest football contest show in the land, the Las Vegas Football Contest Show, focuses on Circa Sports Million, Circa Survivor, and the Westgate Super Contest, handicapping the games and releasing our contest picks every week of the season. With two former Super Contest winners, Brady Cannon and James Salinas, a former NFL player, Mike Pritchard, and over $1 million in contest prize money won combined, the Las Vegas Football Contest Show will have you prepared this season like none other.
There is going to be an energy to game time decisions that you will feel night in and night out. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. I want this to be the place that people come to. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid.
Crew has already clinched the National League Central. They're 2 games behind LA, that being the Dodgers, trying to maybe get the 2nd seed in the National League standings for October.
Both of these teams have a chance to score some runs against these pitching matchups, so maybe another over, even though we do have a playoff atmosphere. And yes, Milwaukee did clinch, but there's still an eye on the prize of we might be able to chase down the Dodgers and also the Phillies to get one of those buys.
The early line, only on SportsGrid.
Welcome back to NewsWire here on SportsGrid. For those of you getting ready for the big games in college and pro football, as a reminder, we got you covered all weekend long. Saturday, all through the day through midnight. Sunday, same thing. College football today, pro football today. The guys are completely ready, and the girls too, and helping you out, make winning picks this weekend, and also give you some great analysis as well. You can download the SportsGrid app, which is available right now on iOS or Android, and just take out your phone and scan that QR code. It is the SportsGrid app. Plenty of different clips, picks, information, and naturally opinions from a lot of our hosts too. So make sure you download that. It's completely free, and it's a nice companion to those of you who are watching our show daily, Monday through Friday here on SportsGrid, 11 a.m. 12 p.m. Eastern. Exclusively, we are NewsWire. Now, as far as the games are concerned in the National Football League, we've seen a number of different results that have pointed toward underdogs in the early part of the season. Very specifically, 9-1 last week with these teams that are underdogs by 5.5 points or more. But last night, that was not the case. In the National Football League, it was a blowout, essentially. Although the game was, sort of in the balance for about a quarter, the New England Patriots really did not put up much of a fight against the New York Jets. The final score was 24-3 yesterday as Aaron Rodgers threw a touchdown pass. Breece Hall rushed for a touchdown. And unfortunately for New England, they really could not get out of their own way. They had problems both on the offensive side, defensive side, even special teams as well. And this narrative that Aaron Rodgers is not all the way back from his injury certainly didn't look like that was the case last night. Rodgers post-game told reporters that as time goes on, he'll be more and more comfortable. There was a very awkward scene, as you see there, between him and head coach Robert Saleh. Frank, we were at the game last night. I'm not really sure what happened there, but it looked like Saleh went to hug Aaron Rodgers, and maybe he just was like, the game's not over or something like that. I'm not really sure what was said. But needless to say, Jets, Patriots, they are the first two teams that have games under their belt for Week 3. Now, as far as the rest of the schedule is concerned in the National Football League, we've got the Eagles taking on the Saints this week. And I think most people look at this line and say, maybe a little bit fishy here because the Saints have played great football and they're only 2.5-point favorites at home. This is one of the higher totals, by the way, on the board this week, 49.5. The Eagles, of course, are coming off a loss at home to the Atlanta Falcons, while the New Orleans Saints blew out their first two opponents. The first one was the Carolina Panthers. And then last week, with a lot of their fans, by the way, in the stands in Dallas, they blew out the Dallas Cowboys, with Dallas being 6.5-point favorites. So needless to say, this week, odds makers are not complete believers in the Saints. And right now, 2.5 points is the current line over on FanDuel. Well, are you a believer in the Arizona Cardinals? The odds makers are starting to come around here a little bit on them. This line has jumped from 2.5 to 3. As Detroit looks to be at complete health. They're 3-point favorites this week over Arizona with a total of 52.5. The story for the Lions last week is they completely outgained Tampa Bay, both on the ground and in the air, but made some mistakes. Dan Campbell alluded to some potential coaching mistakes as well. Cardinals were fantastic against the Rams, but was that a good victory for them, considering the Rams from about the second quarter on lost two defensive players as well as Cooper Kupp, playing without Puka Nacua. Cardinals have played better football this season without a doubt, but Detroit right now, 3-point favorites on the road over at the FanDuel Sportsbook. One team after this week's game is going to be really unhappy with the results. Who's it going to be? Is it going to be the Baltimore Ravens? They're 0-2 heading into this matchup against Dallas. Ravens last week had a big lead against the Las Vegas Raiders and gave it away, and Dallas essentially was never in the game with the Saints. Right now, it's a 1.5-point spread. The Cowboys, generally speaking, at home as a dog, have been fantastic through the years. And so is this a little bit of an overreaction to their loss against the Saints last week? Kind of hard. It's really hard to handicap this game because the Ravens, they never start 0-3, right? Like, to think that could potentially happen this week, to me, that's one of the hardest games to call on the board. A total of 49.5 also in that game between those two teams. San Francisco 49ers this week, we don't know if they're going to have George Kittle or Bosa on the field either. It's unclear. We know the Rams have had more injuries than any other team in the National Football League, but very quickly the 49ers are catching them. Right now, the Rams, speaking of catching, are catching 6.5 points over on the FanDuel Sportsbook. This line was 7.5, but with the news of George Kittle being questionable for the game and also Joey Bosa being questionable for the game, the 49ers at this stage have to be considered one of those teams very similar to the Rams, where you've already lost McCaffrey and Deebo Samuel and maybe even George Kittle. Is that just too much to be laying 6.5 points in this game? It's still remains to be seen. And finally, one of the bigger games that's going on will be Sunday Night Football. Remember, there's 2 games on Monday night this week, folks. But on Sunday Night Football, you have the Kansas City Chiefs taking on the Atlanta Falcons. Chiefs right now, of course, are short favorites in this game. But what's really impressive is the Chiefs' wins in their last 8 games. Just some incredible wins when you look at all of the different teams that they have beaten. They've beaten the Bengals twice. They've beaten the Baltimore Ravens and a number of really good teams along the way. No one has been able to knock them off. A lot of close games. Kansas City's not always covering the spread, by the way, in the NFL, but they are somehow winning games. Last week, it was a 4th down call where they had a penalty, and that led to a Harrison Butker field goal over Cincinnati. So thus far, it's been not a perfect season for Kansas City, but they have played extremely well. The only difference this week for them, as opposed to what we saw all last year and in the Super Bowl, is who will start at running back for them, with Isaiah Pacheco on injury reserve and potentially out for an extended period of time. Kareem Hunt has been signed by the Chiefs. He was on the practice squad as late as yesterday. They have not activated him just yet. Who knows if he'll be activated for this week, but you would assume that Hunt at some point will be on the active roster on game day, whether it's this week against Atlanta or another week as well. All right, let's take a quick time out here on NewsWire. Coming up next, it's time for us to get in some last licks. I'll have my thoughts on Shohei Ohtani, breaking history, and a whole lot more. And as a reminder, you can catch me tomorrow morning on Fantasy Sports Today with me and George Kurtz. That is at 7 a.m. Eastern, exclusively here on SportsGrid. Joe Pisapia, Matt Stryker, every Sunday morning on SportsGrid as well, talking fantasy football. We'll be right back.
Ravens starting their season 0-2, and I mean the numbers and where the market had eyeing this team heading into this season is probably almost up in flames at this point.
Their last however many games being down 10 plus points in the fourth quarter, inability to close out, getting picked apart by what is largely considered a below average quarterback with a below average receiving core.
Pro Football Today, only on SportsGrid.
The sharpest football contest show in the land, the Las Vegas Football Contest Show, focuses on Circa Sports Million, Circa Survivor, and the Westgate Super Contest, handicapping the games and releasing our contest picks every week of the season. With 2 former Super Contest winners, Brady Cannon and James Salinas, a former NFL player, Mike Pritchard, and over $1 million in contest prize money won combined, the Las Vegas Football Contest Show will have you prepared this season like none other.
There is going to be an energy to game time decisions that you will feel night in and night out. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. I want this to be the place that people come to. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid.
Crew has already clinched the National League Central. They're 2 games behind LA, that being the Dodgers, trying to maybe get the 2nd seed in the National League standings for October.
Both of these teams have a chance to score some runs against these pitching matchups, so maybe another over, even though we do have a playoff atmosphere. And yes, Milwaukee did clinch, but there's still an eye on the prize of we might be able to chase down the Dodgers and also the Phillies to get one of those buys.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
Yesterday, I guess it was, or the day before, announced through, I guess, real estate company that he is selling his home and he's going to move to somewhere more private. Bottom line is he's selling his house just to move somewhere where they don't have his address. I mean, I think that's really the bottom line there. We've seen this happen with athletes before, and you would have to imagine, too, when Dan Campbell bought his house in Michigan, that he never would have thought that the team would be this good. I mean, remember the jokes that were made when they hired him to coach the Lions? that it wouldn't go well and he didn't know what he was doing. I mean, we heard that sort of stuff, but definitely Campbell has outlived all of that and more. One of the potential coaches of the year, one of the favorites even to get to the Super Bowl. So Campbell going to live in a more private abode, fair to say. All right, last night in Miami, Shohei Ohtani, not 49, not 50, hit 51. But that home run number 50 is what everybody's talking about today on social media. You may have seen me report this last night that the fan who caught Shohei Ohtani's 50th home run, it was an opposite field shot in left field. The Dodgers did meet with him, and I'm not sure what they offered yet. I'll get to the bottom of that. Don't know yet. But they did meet with him, and the fan basically has said that he is not giving the ball back, at least for the time being, and he ended up leaving the stadium. There's been a lot of discussion about this on social media, and naturally people are asking me for my opinion, and I've given it so many darn times here on this show. These players are making hundreds of millions of dollars. If they really want their stuff back, they should pay for it, or the team should pay for it if that's what the fan wants. These do not belong to the players. These belong to the fans. I've always been very adamant about the rookies getting their first home run ball back. Yes, I've always said that. But when it comes to milestone balls from players who are making hundreds of millions of dollars, you simply have to pay up. And let me just tell you a brief story here before we get to our last one here. Around sports, when a player wants his jersey number, he gives 5, 10, 15, 20. Who knows what Tom Brady gave to get his number back in Tampa Bay? 5 figures just to wear their number. And you're telling me that they're not willing to give the fan something equal of value just to have their milestone ball? Does not add up, folks. If you're willing to do that, you should be willing to go the extra mile for the fans. It belongs to him. Whatever he gets, he gets. Finally, if you're interested in noting a piece of history, there's actually 2 different ways you could do it. You could actually buy a ticket from the Marlins. They're selling them for $25. If you didn't go to the game, you just call them up the ticket office. They'll send you a ticket for $25. But also, he's the first player to do the 50-50, 50 home runs, 50 steals. So Topps now has a brand new card that they are selling. There's a lot of variations of this. There's also a signature. There's limited editions of this. This is going to be the most purchased Topps Now card of all time. I mean, let's just call it what it is. Odds, again, of getting a signature of him on there, very slim, but they do promote that as it is available. Naturally, it's a pretty cool card. First time I've ever really thought of buying a Topps Now card. First time I considered doing it. Haven't done it yet, but I may end up doing it. We'll see. All right, that will do it for our show today. Thanks again to Jim Gazzale from Legal Sports Report. And thanks again to Vinnie Iyer from Sporting News. Also coming up next here on SportsGrid, we've got a great golf show for you. We've got our Live Dallas preview special at noon. So that's noon to 3 o'clock. That's followed by Scott Farrell Coast to Coast. And then we'll get you ready for all the great programming tonight, which includes the home stretch for Major League Baseball and, of course, the WNBA season coming to a close. WNBA playoffs beginning very soon as well. Thanks again to our director, Luke, our producer, Frank. I'm Craig Mish. Programming reminder, I'm back with you tomorrow morning, bright and early, getting you ready for fantasy football. 7 a.m. Eastern. That's right, 7 a.m. Me and George Kurtz, we got you for 2 hours. Sunday morning, leading you right up until Pro Football Today, we have Joe Pisapia and Matt Stryker. If fantasy football isn't your thing, and this show is, then guess what? Have a great weekend. Hope you enjoy it, whatever you're doing. I'll see you back here Monday morning, 11 a.m. Eastern sharp, exclusively here on SportsGrid for our little show that we call NewsWire. Enjoy your weekend. I'll see you Monday for our next edition of the show.